Hi, everyone. Welcome to our very first series of podcasts brought to you by Spectra. My name is Serena, and I am Spectra's Trans Empowerment and Support Program Manager.
And hi, my name is Joanne, and I'm the Trans Program Administrator. I'm also a peer mentor and social group facilitator at Spectra.
Great stuff. Before we start this podcast, let's share about who we are and what we do as a charity. Spectra is a peer-led LGBTQI organization with a 20-year service history. And in April 2019, Spectra launched a 4-year trans empowerment and support program, which was funded by the Community Fund. And our trans service offers one-to-one support and counseling, peer mentoring, referral and signposting to relevant partners, talks and workshops, and weekly social groups. Other core services offered by Spectra include outreach services, sexual health, and HIV testing.
Thank you, Serena. Also, at this point, it's important to include possible trigger warnings in topics discussed. Our podcast might include description of gender dysphoria, transphobia, discrimination, and that might be triggering to some individuals.
And also our discussions here today don't necessarily reflect the organization's or the views stance or the views of Spectra, but only the personal views of myself and my co-host.
Thank you, Serena. So with our introductions done, we're really excited and thrilled to launch this series. We will talk about everything relating to our trans and non-binary communities.
Indeed. So first off, it would be helpful for everybody to know a little bit about you, Joanne, and how you got started with Spectra.
Yeah, I'm a trans woman, and I finally had my affirmation surgery in January 2020. And my first contact with Spectra was back in 2016. It came at a time where I needed help with some aspects of my transition. So essentially, I started as a service user where I had counseling, and I also joined the social group that Spectra set up in my area at the time.
So your first contact actually preceded our trans program.
Yep. At that time, our trans empowerment program was still in the planning.
Okay. So how did you hear about Spectra and what was your pathway to transition at the time?
So I was already transitioning, but I was in my early stages. And I heard about Spectra from a local charity that I was registered at the time. And accessing Spectra services was my first opportunity to actually meet other trans people like me.
So were you linked in with the GIC at that time? Just for clarity, GIC is Gender Identity Clinic for those who don't know.
Yeah, I was already in the waiting lists for my first appointment with the JIC.
So how did you actually navigate this process? Was it protracted, very long, the GIC process?
It was extremely long. The very first time that I asked to be referred to the Gender Identity Clinic was back in 2011. That's 9 years ago. But unfortunately, at that time, I had a very transphobic GP, and they refused to do my referral. Instead, they thought it best to refer me to a psychiatrist, and then it became a whole roller coaster of different therapists. And no one quite knew how to deal with my referrals because it was the GP's job all along to do so. It was only in 2015 where I got my strength back and I asked to see a different GP. And finally, I got referred to the GIC, and I still had a further 2-year wait until I got my first appointment with the clinic.
Incredibly long time. But during that time, were you already socially transitioning?
I was. I started doing things very slowly. First, I had really had to tell my friends and family in Portugal it was important for me that they were part of my journey. Uh, and then I started adopting a more androgynous feminine look, and I started asking everyone to call me Joe. It was really important for me, and I felt I had to do things gradually because if not, it could become too overwhelming, and that would then increase my anxiety and have possible repeats of previous issues with my mental health, really.
Mm. When you mentioned your mental health, how did you seek help at the time?
Well, I did seek help, but in all honesty, it was really difficult reaching out. When I did, I would always end up being seen by therapists that had no understanding whatsoever about gender dysphoria.
Hmm.
So some treated my transition as if it was a mental health disorder,
Hmm.
and it they made me feel more like a number, not like an individual,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. So how, in contrast, how did you find the experience of counseling at Spectra compared to those initial experiences you had with counseling or therapy?
It was completely different, completely night to day, basically. Finding Spectra was really, it was a new lifeline for me. It changed my life completely. It's finding support from a counseling service that had trans therapists. It was just magical, really.
Why was it important to have a trans counselor?
It was so important. I can't really stress enough how important that was. I finally felt seen, and I was recognized as an individual. I was no longer just a number or an illness or diagnosis. I didn't have to school anyone about gender dysphoria, what gender dysphoria was, and I could just go straight into talking about any gender related issues that I had.
Mm,
And until this day, every time that I think and recall every interaction that I had with Spectra as a service user, that just makes me smile all the time.
well, thank you so much for sharing that, Joe. How was it that you actually transitioned from being a service user to a member of our team then?
That's been a growing development, still all changing always. I started the week before Easter 2018. Back then, the sexual health program manager at Spectra invited me to be part of a short film called Who is Alex?
Ah, yes, that was the short film scheme which was funded by the Media Trust, who's telling your stories.
Yes, it was
Mm,
a really important day, and that was also the day that me and you met, and we started working together. That day was the turning point, in essence, from being a service user to being part of the peer delivery team
indeed.
at this moment.
Yeah, indeed. And then from there, you went on to being a mentor. Why did you decide to take on the mentoring role?
It was by going through my transition, as so many other people, going through it alone was very difficult, was really, really lonely. And the peer mentor program gave me the focus and the opportunity to give back. So many of members of trans and non-binary community face their own struggles, isolation, rejection from family and friends, difficulty accessing services, just like I did. And no one should have to face these struggles alone.
Yes, I agree. You are also a social group facilitator for our weekly trans and non-binary social groups, which are now online. How are you enjoying being a group facilitator?
Again, It's a really wonderful opportunity to help give back. Our group members are all at various stages in their own journeys, and everyone's so supportive of each other. The groups in it have become just mini communities, and people just look forward to always joining to come and meet other people like us. And I myself also always look forward to being there.
That's great. So from your experience in the groups, what particular support issues have you found that people present with at the groups and as a mentor?
It's so many different things. It's again like in the mentoring, our groups we follow a user-led range of topics, which they're not subscriptive to just uh, anything. They change all the time, and they can range from relating gender and gender identity, coming out, family personal relationships, navigating work, accessing the healthcare system, substance misuse, and so many others.
I thoroughly agree. And I think that the peer delivery model certainly helps people feel comfortable accessing services delivered by their peers. What do you think?
Absolutely. With all the aspects of our program, our main goal in being peer-led is to empower our service users, to help them find their own voice, in essence, accept themselves and live their life in a more emotionally stronger and resilient way, and to reach their own full potential.
Indeed, I agree. Our peer delivery model was informed actually by our service users at the social group review in 2017, which of course preceded the formal program, and it continues with our participatory evaluation groups, which are coordinated by another volunteer called John. And perhaps at a future submission, we'll talk a little bit more about the participatory evaluation group.
Yes, it would be really good to talk about that. Our participatory evaluation groups are a wonderful opportunity to help service develop and continuously improve. And we're always keen to cast our net as wide as possible because we want to include everyone. We want to include anyone from any background, embracing all intersectionalities and neurodiversities. We're actually going to have a new group starting in January, and all the details can be found on our website.
Well, I very, very much appreciate you sharing your story and spending time with me today, Joe. Also for being so open and honest about yourself and your journey.
Thank you also. I really did enjoy our chat also, and I always look forward for opportunities to have further discussions where we can possibly positively inform and impact the life of other people in our communities. Even if we just reach one person, uh, we're doing our job
Indeed.
and what we love.
Indeed. Well, thank you for that. Before we go, though, I think it would be helpful to inform everybody about our website and our social media platforms.
Yeah, our website, you can find us at www.spectra-london.org.uk. Our email address also is trans@spectra-london.org.uk. And also, like you said, you can find us on social media. On Facebook, will be Spectra Peers, and on Twitter, it will be at S Trans Services.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for spending time with me, Joanne. And we look forward to another submission in due course.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Also, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Great stuff. Thank you, everybody, for today. And we hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.